Awen is an old Welsh word that by today has come to mean many different things to many different people. But what was its original meaning? Hello, my name is Gwilym Morris Baird and this is Celtic Source. In modern Welsh culture, Awen simply means inspiration or poetic genius. For example, a good poet can be described as having an Awen rymys, that is a powerful muse. But in the past, Awen also had supernatural connotations. There was something magical or enchanted about being inspired, and poetic genius was often associated with spiritual enlightenment and wisdom. In this older sense, Awen has an elemental quality and seems to correspond to some kind of supernatural wind or divine breath. For example, a court poet of the 12th century, Cynddelw Mawr, said this in one of his poems. Cain Awen gan awel bylgaint. Elegant Awen from the breeze of midnight prayers. It's also worth noting that Awen and the Welsh word for breeze, awel, could be related. They could both derive from the Proto-Indo-European wel, meaning breath. In medieval Welsh literature, wind is sometimes used as a metaphor for Awen. For example, in the tale of Taliesin, the young bard travels to the court of a Welsh king, Maelgwn Gwynedd. He makes a grand appearance, causing Maelgwn's bards to speak gibberish, and then performs a long boast where he recounts some of his past lives. During this poem, a great wind rises that threatens to blow down the king's court, and Maelgwn is so scared by the freakish weather that he complies with Taliesin's demands. This Welsh folk tale is actually quite similar to the old story of the Irish poet Ai mac Olafan. At the moment of his birth, a great wind blew and shook his family's house. An Irish poet who was present predicted that he would become a great man. Ai grew up to be a great poet, and such was his eloquence that he was given the name Ai, which in Old Irish literally means poetic inspiration. Ai, sometimes Awi, can also be related to the Welsh word Awen. This connection between Awen and wind or breath is also found in some of the poems in the Book of Taliesin. Can y Gwynt, or Song of the Wind, for example, a long riddle about the wind that could also be read as a long riddle about Awen. Or the allusions to wind in Angar Cyfundawd as metaphors for Taliesin's elemental inspiration. Awen is actually quite accurately translated by the English word inspiration, which is itself borrowed from the Latin inspiratus, which literally means to be breathed into. It's not unexpected to find a similar concept in ancient Roman culture, as it too, like Welsh and Irish, is a member of the Indo-European family tree. In ancient Greek, we also have the word pneuma, which literally means breath, but in a religious context can also mean spirit or soul. These classical ideas probably influenced the Christian concept of the Holy Spirit. Characterizing spirit as a type of breath was clearly commonplace in ancient Europe. But this isn't the only feature of the Welsh Awen. Although it's clearly related to the classical notions of spirit, it also has its own unique characteristics. Perhaps the most obvious is the relationship between Awen and the Welsh otherworld, Annwfn. Annwfn is mentioned in several medieval Welsh texts, usually described as an idyllic and perfect realm full of riches and grand palaces. In Welsh folk tradition, Annwfn becomes the fairy realm, accessible through high mountain lakes or caves. According to some Welsh scholars, Annwfn literally means something like the very deep world or the world within the world. A few medieval poems describe Awen as arising from Annwfn. For example, Cynddelw Mawr says this in one of his poems. Hyderyd gerdd fy ngherdd yng nghyflawnder I gyflawn foli rhy rhwyd i'r per yn urddiant foliant falad glywer yn awen barawd awdl birwawd beir yn anwfn yn nofn yn nyfnder I dfarn nid beirdd a'i dadfarn bardd a'i dadfer. Powerfully does my song go forth in completeness to praise fully the king that deserves it, in renowned praise full of dignity, with ready Awen in an ode of fair pure poetry, in Annwfn in the deep, in the depth it judges. Other bards do not impoverish it, it is this bard that declaims it. What Cynddelw is describing here is how Awen is not only something that arises out of the other world, but how it brings good judgment with it. The vast majority of court poetry that was composed by bards, such as Cynddelw, is a celebration of masculinity in the form of the heroic ideal. The noblemen who were praised by these bards were depicted as perfect men, violent towards their enemies and generous protectors of their people. Cynddelw is suggesting that by virtue of the supernatural Awen, he can judge that the nobleman he is praising is an embodiment of this ideal. And what's more, Cynddelw is such an amazing poet that he doesn't squander this Awen as other lesser bards would surely do. Cynddelw's claim is that only a highly skilled bard like himself really knows what to do with a divine Awen. And this highlights an important aspect of the Welsh bardic tradition. To be worthy of receiving this spirit of inspiration, one had to be diligently trained in the complex craft of Welsh poetry. In other words, Awen wasn't enough on its own. A bard had to be taught how to make the most of God-given inspiration. Is this all just hocus pocus, or is there some value in the way medieval Welsh bards conceptualised creativity and inspiration? Let me know what you think in the comments below. You can download the different sources that I've used to make this video from celticsource.online. Just follow the link in the description below. If you found this video interesting, please like and share, and if you want to see more, subscribe and click the bell. Diolch yn fawr iawn.